a woman comes in for service. She's 75 years old. She's driving a 22-year-old Toyota Corolla. The owner has gone to the service managers and said, listen, when you run into this circumstance, I want you to do me a favor. If the service is less than $200, like she's just coming in for a tune-up or an oil change or something minor, it turns out to be just a little hose or something, just give it to her. But don't tell her it's from me, and don't tell her it's the policy of the dealer. Tell her it's from you. Tell her it's just like, Mrs. Watson, you're just such a sweetheart. Don't worry about it. I got you. If you come in for something else, we'll charge you then. Now, how do you make money on such generosity? Well, because you know that Mrs. Watson's going to go to her coffee clatch or her bridge party or her tennis club, and she's not going to shut up about it. You think that you lost money in the service when really what you did was you paid $200 for the ultimate kind of marketing. Word of mouth.
Welcome to the How Leaders Think podcast, a show that transforms you by renewing your mind and giving you new ways to think. I am your host, Kenny Lange, and with me today is the Neal Foard. Hello. He is the founder of Storyfire. I feel like there should be a voice that goes along with that. Maybe Hadouken, Storyfire. I don't know. We'll workshop it. He is a professional level communications, which Storyfire is a professional level communications course for ambitious executives. So if you're lackadaisical, lazy, or you're ready to throw in the towel, please ignore. Neal is an expert in using storytelling for business, having spent 30 years shaping award-winning ad campaigns for global icons like Budweiser, Lexus, and Sony, and as the worldwide director of creative learning. That's a really big name tag. For advertising giant Saatchi & Saatchi, Neal authored a program to teach professionals to sell their work more effectively. Good Lord, we need that. A sought-after speaker with multiple appearances on the TEDx stage, Neal is known to millions for his viral videos celebrating everyday human kindness. Amen. Welcome to the show, Neal.
Hey, thank you, Kenny. And by the way, for the benefit of your listeners, Kenny doesn't just hit record randomly. We have a little conversation before we're on. And I can tell already, Kenny and I would be great friends because he has a quality, you probably know this from listening to him, but he has a quality of being really open and accessible right from the jump. We'll talk about that more because I think it's really important that people be unafraid at being friendly and unguarded and transparent and, share themselves. And so thank you for having me on, Kenny. I'd rather talk to you than most people.
I believe that you mean that 100%, because I believe we are both, as if you're not watching, you need to watch. At least just go grab a clip and look over Neal's shoulder, because this may just need to be the title of the episode. I don't care what we talk about, but let's be pissed off for greatness. I'm going to say that for the rest of at least the day, if not the week.
I have these little screensavers that have that on there. So I'm going to send you a couple.
I love that. And then I cannot wait to plug in my laptop at a couple of these talks I have coming up.
Excellent.
And for that, I already have like Dragon Ball Z and stuff like that, flashing Halo and Master Chief. So add that into the mix would be perfect.
Right on.
So I love to be remembered. Maybe not for anything I said, but at least for my screensavers. Tell me, Neal, today, what is on your mind?
Well, business is a kind of a funny thing. It used to be called trade way, way back when, before it became business. Now, you'll notice that if you look at a movie like, say, The Godfather, they're talking about murdering other human beings, and then they're qualifying them and saying, it's just business. It's not personal. And
naturally,
when you go, to me, that characterization that if you're conducting a profession and you have customers, then if you called it trade, then automatically it's about having a customer and providing them with value, and in exchange they give you something worth as much. There's a kind of unspoken, but it's hovering there, that this is two human beings engaged in some form of exchange.
Yeah.
If you call it trade. And a tradesman, for example, is somebody who provides a definitive service like electrifying your house or unclogging your pipes or putting a roof on over your head. A tradesman is somebody who does something incredibly tangible in exchange for money. You have a relationship with, it's sort of a one-off. It's like one at a time. Yeah. I'm going to do. As soon as you call it business, you have removed yourself one level from responsibility to the other person. And therefore, it is my view that we should restore our sense that anything we do professionally, we do it in trade, not as a business. So that's what's on my mind lately.
I love that. I was a fan with my first business, and this is where you and I have some professional overlap in that I was running a marketing agency, and we worked with Story and things like that. But I would talk to people about internally with the staff I hired, where like there's a technician, technically gifted, or actually, sorry, I had all sorts of things that probably don't make any sense anymore. But everybody starts with talent, right? And then we could work if you cultivate talent, you would make that into a skill. And if you practice that skill long enough, it becomes a craft. Yeah. And that's when I started thinking about tradesmen, a journeyman, like electrician or something like that. I think of that craftsman level, like there's a care about what's being done. But I really like what you're saying, where there's a trade or a tradesman, a responsibility to the other person.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. That's much better put than I said it just now. A responsibility to the other person. Well done.
Well, I had to have something to jump off from. So I'm a fine editor, terrible creator, and that's why I'm so glad to live in the day and age of AI. But I'm curious, what do you see in maybe it's with clients you've worked with, some are very large brands that most people would recognize, or just in your everyday life. What is the common wisdom or the prevailing wisdom that makes thinking about the trade, like going into this realm of it's just business?
Yeah.
What makes that so prevalent? Like why are we hanging on to that? Because again, I'm always fascinated when we're trying to zag while everyone zigs. What's the zig all about? Right? Like what makes providing something necessary? Because if it was commonplace, we wouldn't need a trade in say storytelling or marketing if it was easy for everyone.
Think of, I'm not exactly sure this is going to answer your question probably, but this is what came up while you were talking. This is what I was thinking. Mm-hmm. Let's look at Ferrari. All right. Okay. Now, Ferrari was done originally. This is somebody, or this is an organization that is so passionate about what they do that the vehicle itself is informed as much by art as by engineering. And there's a kind of spirit to it. You touch the vehicles and there's like a ghost in the machine. It's almost as though this inanimate object is alive. Right. That's because it carries with it, it is infused with the creative spirit and energy of somebody deeply passionate about their work. You can feel the artistry, you can feel the passion of the person at the other end. So that's a trade. I have built this vehicle with a level of commitment and humanity so that it adds up to more than just a vehicle to get you from here to there. That I've made a commitment to this. Now, if it's trade, then I've built it for you, Kenny. I poured all of this energy and all of this passion because I want to make something so fine that a certain kind of person appreciates what I've done. Now, if it's business, I'll sell that car to anyone. All it's about is the money now. I don't give a damn whether you have a lick of taste. In fact, screw that. I only will sell it to people who have so much money that you actually have to qualify to buy this car by having bought a car before. It's the whole thing has been perverted. The whole reason for the Ferrari, it's not that somebody appreciates the engineering and the artistry. It's that they can virtue signal to some woman who has gotten fake breasts and lip implants so that, in other words, I've created this thing, and now I do not care how it gets used. But
Right.
a tradesman, they're not like that. They want the right kind of person to buy it. Now, sorry, I'm taking a very long way around this point.
No, you're good.
But if you're deeply passionate about what you do, let's use another example, Toyota. Toyota has for decades and decades had in their mind that part of their covenant with the buyer is that I will not cheat you. I'm going to, what I tell you this vehicle will do, it will do. We used to say when I was working on the Toyota business that it wasn't so much that the SUV would get you there, it's that it would get you back. Where you go is your business. Getting you home again is mine. And I thought, what a wonderful thing. That in its way is just as much an art form as the Ferrari is beautiful, the Toyota is reliable. And it will stand by its promise. It won't leave you broken down at the side of the road on your trip to Vegas.
Yeah.
And this to me is because they don't, at their best, they don't think of the person at the other end as a consumer. They think of them as a customer, like somebody I have a relationship with. So in the end, I believe that you put your finger on it before by saying, this is a promise, a relationship, how did you put it? Because you said it so well. You said it was, it was an agreement of some kind, we have
a responsibility. To the other.
Thank you. Okay.
There we go.
Which each of them has done, Ferrari and Toyota, in very different ways, is they have expressed, this is my responsibility. My responsibility from Toyota is to get you back again, to be priced in a way that I guarantee you're going to get more value out of it than what you paid for it. Ferrari it's quite similar. No matter what you paid for it, every time you look at it, you're going to feel a certain way about yourself. You're going to feel like, it's like a beautiful suit of clothes. It's intrinsic value. It's like, it covers you up for modesty, and it will provide a sort of modicum of, protection against the elements. But what it really is it is a way to infuse in your psyche a sense of self-belief and so on and so on. That's what fashion is supposed to do.
Right. You just made me think of the Men's Warehouse sign off.
Yes.
Right. You're gonna like the way you look.
You're gonna like the way you look. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And that means that you're going to live up to a certain expectation for yourself. Well, anyway, all of this is just my way of saying that the story a business tells itself about itself is the most important marketing. The most important marketing is how do we behave here at this bank or at this company or in this plumbing company? How do we behave? And what it will allow them to do is the story they tell themselves is going to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you repeat something enough, it becomes true for you. And and oftentimes a business, a trades company, it's as important the things they would never do as the things they would do.
100%. You're venturing into some territory that has really informed the leadership methodology and framework I've developed called Lead to Scale. And the one thing I found at the center of this, whether you're talking about individuals, a team, or an entire organization, is it has to start with awareness. It's an identity piece. That if you're unclear on your identity, the story you tell yourself about who you are or about who we are or how we operate, everything flows from there. I mean, even in the probably one of the best-selling books of the last decade plus, in Atomic Habits by James Clear, he talks about if we really want to change the things we do, the stickiest ones are the ones that come from a place of identity, not just behavior modification. Which strikes me a bit as the interpersonal version of business versus trade, is I'm creating a certain type of value for myself. I am seeing myself as a person of value, not a transaction, not people get something from me, I give something to them, but really that there's an inherent value in who I am, not just what I do. Sort of the ghost in the machine thing of like, there really is something powerful there. And then also you're firing a lot of neurons up in my coconut, because there's also the things that we tell ourselves repeatedly. I do think story is incredibly powerful, but you get into things like quantum mechanics and quantum physics and our ability to sort of bring things forth and bring things into existence. Is incredibly powerful, for reasons even science does not fully understand yet. We acknowledge it's there. We just don't know all of the mechanics behind it. So I think you're hitting on something really powerful. I am curious, and I'm glad you brought up a company like a Toyota, because when you talk about Ferrari, you can get into the craftsman, artisan sort of trap of like, there's only so many that are made. They're very high end. But there are some things that, need mass adoption, mass purchasing, right? And you could almost associate it in this talk. I could imagine a listener going, yeah, but I'm not selling a 300,000, $500,000 piece of equipment or something. I sell something that's, $1,000, $100. I've got to make a lot of transactions in order for this business to be viable. How do you see people protecting themselves in a place where their business, and let's take the most dry technical term of a business, is a collection of systems designed to provide value in exchange for value. How do you do something in mass to make a living and provide for others, and to maybe spread something that is really good across people without losing that sense of trade?
Well, let's look at it from two different vantage points. Let's talk about the manufacture of something that's a small, relatively inexpensive item that, if you let private equity get a hold of your company, it will it will eventually go quite bad, because they're going to nickel and dime it down to the point where it has removed.
Right.
They're going to try and ride that ragged edge of disaster. They're going to get it as close as they can to it doesn't do it anymore. Like,
right,
this antibiotic will barely get you better, or this hospital, it's going to cheat you every which way it can. It's going to overbill you. The difficulty with when you think of it as just business and not trade, that's where private equity comes in and says, I don't give a damn about your customers. That's not why I'm in this. I'm in this to strip this product down to the bare minimum, where it will barely hang on to the customers that you have. And I have acquired your company by loading it with debt. I have no intention of actually making this thing succeed. My whole purpose for being is financial. The whole thing is based on financial shenanigans. Now what happens is that it's just no longer trade. This is a kind of magic trick, a sort of financial magic trick. And let's look at it.
I'm here to extract value.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen an opportunity, a financial opportunity, and I'm going to execute that, and I'm going to leave in my wake a trail of devastation for both the customers that you have and the people that do the job. Congratulations. There are, I'm sure, cases of private equity actually managing a company well and getting it, setting it right in cases where it was overly, fat or whatever. But it's quite a common tale that these people have come in for not for the purposes of maintaining relationships with their customers, but rather just stripping it down to its absolute bare minimum to still functionally do what it's supposed to do. Now, that is not a formula for growth. That is a formula for controlled crash landing. Now, so let's look at the alternative, where the person who has a business and it provides at scale a certain product. And what they're really trying to do is make sure that that product maintains its integrity and delivers its value. Well, if you've got to do anything at scale, that means you can't do everything. You have to set the tone. So think of it a little bit like a hotel or a restaurant. A hotel, you can't be the manager 24 hours a day. And a hotel lives and dies by the quality of its interactions with its guests. And those interactions with its guests are controlled by every single individual that touches their visit. The maid, the maintenance guy, the person who swabs down the gymnasium, the people who take the reservations, customer service, and ultimately, the person at the desk handing over your key. If every one of them has the religion, if they, like you, want to live by certain values and practices, and they enjoy the process of over-delivering, then you can scale. But it really does become a matter of the manager managing to persuade the people that hire them to believe in the things they believe, to take pleasure in the pleasure of their guests. And what's more, and here's kind of an important point. Not everybody that walks through the door is going to be a nice person. And likewise, not everybody that uses a product is going to use it correctly. And they're going to complain about it because, it didn't come with batteries or some other thing.
Yeah.
It's really important that the manager, that the guiding light of that company explains to people and they internalize it. Not everybody's going to be happy with this, and that's okay. But you've got to maintain your integrity through these experiences. So if somebody's mean to you, don't let that infect the next interaction. You have to maintain your viability. But in real response to your question, it really is about the top person evangelizing the values and the principles of the company so that everybody feels it the same way that the top person feels it. And go ahead, you were about to say something.
Now, you made me think of two things. One, the Ritz-Carlton. And I just forgot the name of the guy that
I know who you mean,
that.
Yeah.
But
ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen has always stuck with me. It's a saying, and I don't know that it originated with him, but he's the one I remember saying it, is Andy Stanley, who leads a very large church sort of plant ecosystem down in the Atlanta area. But he has a lot of great stuff on leadership in his own podcast. But one of the values that he tries to drive into all of his leaders is we have to make it better before we make it bigger.
Yeah, that's a great phrase.
And that's what, when you were talking about how, like, we've got to cultivate, do this. If all of these conditions are true, if the foundation is set, then we can build. Whereas in, say, like your private equity, sort of the stereotypical private equity move is, let's build a house of cards and see if we can sell it before anybody discovers how feeble this is. Almost, right?
Well, that NASCAR is the best, not the NASCAR business lately, but rather just the very act of driving NASCAR. If you've ever been down, are you a fan of that, by the way, Kenny?
You would think, because I live in Texas, that I am, but it's not the thing I follow.
Okay, I got into it because of my association with Toyota, and they got into NASCAR big, and they went to town. And as a result of, I had track access a lot, and as I got right down there on the tarmac, and I was watching them during the speed runs, for pole position and so forth. Kenny, you cannot believe how close to disaster they are on every turn. That's how you win. You have to be this close to wiping out on every turn. When you watch those cars come around like a short track, like Phoenix or like Dover, when you watch them come around that turn and the car is barely under control. I mean, the wheels are skittering. They're microns from losing traction.
Yeah.
That's how you win, is you are that close to disaster all the time. Well, PE bust outs are like that. They are going to get that thing right down to is it starting to explode yet? The product's not exploding on the shelf? Okay, keep going. Right? They are going to get it right. Like, is there still meat in the sandwich? No, there's still meat? Take out the last of the meat. Let's see if they still eat it. But you can't do that in an organization like the guy was saying. He says you've got to reinforce getting better before you can get bigger. The fact is that if you go to what you were saying before, you made this mention of sort of a quantum level laws of attraction and the strange and mysterious action at a quantum level, where quantum entanglement is the notion that where objects at enormous distances can still feel the effects being rendered on the other atom or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Well, spooky, what do they call it? Spooky action at a distance. Okay, so there is something to it. They can't explain it. They only know that it exists, not how it gets, why it happens that way. There are these very strange things about, like, the fact that the DNA helix operates under the same golden ratio that you will find at galaxy level construction of planets and relationships.
Right. Yeah.
You'll see it in Nautilus shells. You'll also see it in hurricanes. You'll see it in, giant galaxies, and you'll see it in the DNA helix, and you'll see it in the, micron. You get the idea. In other words, there's something very mysterious going on in the way that matter interacts with itself. So let's accept this, that when you are doing trade, when you're conducting trade with a customer, and you can't be there to enforce what's happening at the window level at the Jack in the Box, that you can nevertheless give your own people sufficient support to make them want to imitate what you would do. And there's a kind of social contract in a business like that. Danny Meyer and these other restaurateurs, that they can walk into almost any restaurant and magically transform it into the best in category. And they will say, I take care of my staff before I care what happens to the customer, because the staff are going to be the ones that take care of the customer. Therefore, they must feel like
they're the first customer.
Yeah, that's a really brilliant way of putting it. So I believe that's true of almost any organization, whether it is a sports franchise, where the athletes have to feel like the owner cares about them. Otherwise, it just becomes transactional, and they'll want a bonus for every goal or what have you.
Right. We're keeping score.
Yeah.
I did this for you. You did that for me.
Yeah.
You did this. Yeah.
And
there's not a relationship.
There's no elasticity of, consider, I've seen car dealers, for example, that were really good, and they tended to, in practice, not watch every nickel and dime in a transaction. Like, they would have as one of their goals to get you out of there quickly, meaning a typical car purchase takes 6 hours, 7 hours. It's a grind. It's the Bataan death march of retail experiences. I guarantee you that in 80% of all car transactions, 6,000 lies are told by the salesman or the dealer. And that's absolutely the best I can do. No, it's not. That's lie one. Lie two is, what are these extra charges here? Oh, that's blah, 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 blah. It's all just lies. But the ones that just kill it are the ones that go, look, I want them out of here in 2.5 hours. If you have to lose $500 on this transaction, you go ahead and do that, because we will have built sufficient trust with that person that they'll come back for all their service.
Right. Or they'll go tell the rest of their family to come by here.
Right. Because I'm dealing with a sucker. The guy doesn't even know what he's doing. So you can take him for a ride. It's like, well, yeah. And the math of these things are that when people really like a dealer, over the lifetime value of that customer is probably 11 to 13 cars. And here's a stat that's really crazy. I want you to imagine a 55-year-old car buyer. 55. How many more cars do you think, if they are the head of household in a family of 4, how many more cars do you think they will buy after the age of 55? Take a guess.
Well, for themselves or for their kids?
Just the whole family.
The whole family? 5.
Good guess. It's 11. After the age of 55, they'll buy 11 cars. Yeah.
Wow.
Now, what does that tell you? It says that it's really important to establish a relationship with a single customer, because even when you think they are out of the game, they continue to patronize on behalf of their neighbors. They make recommendations. They buy for their, they co-sign for their nephew. They buy, and I'm just talking about purchases, not even co-signing or recommendations.
Yeah.
That we are generally speaking, we are underestimating the customer. We're underestimating the lifetime value of customers generally. Now, I want you to imagine this scenario. A woman comes in for service. She's 75 years old. She's driving a 22-year-old Toyota Corolla. The owner has gone to the service managers and said, listen, when you run into this circumstance, I want you to do me a favor. If the service is less than $200, like she's just coming in for a tune-up or an oil change or something minor, it turns out to be just a little hose or something, just give it to her. But don't tell her it's from me, and don't tell her it's the policy of the dealer. Tell her it's from you. Tell her it's just like, Mrs. Watson, you're just such a sweetheart. Don't worry about it. I got you. If you come in for something else, we'll charge you then. Now, how do you make money on such generosity? Well, because you know that Mrs. Watson's going to go to her coffee clatch or her bridge party or her tennis club, and she's not going to shut up about it. You think that you lost money in the service when really what you did was you paid $200 for the ultimate kind of marketing, word of mouth.
Yeah.
And what happens?
That's really putting it in a different bucket.
You've just put the money into a different cost center.
Into customer, into CAC or customer acquisition cost.
Thank you.
If you transfer it there instead of leaving it as some sort of like lost revenue or some other expense that a CFO would put it into. Nothing against CFOs,
but yeah, well, the best CFOs, of course, they recognize that immediately. They go, "Oh, well, that's a marketing cost. That's a marketing expense." I can completely write that off of our marketing budget. And what's more, my guess is this: that how long do you think that drum beat's going to run? That's not a one-time only radio commercial flight, or it's not a one. No. That drum's going to keep banging away for probably about 24 months. And not only that, but that kind of attitude of the dealer, it tends to infect other things. Like the way they treat their staff is with generosity and elasticity, and recognize that every single individual that works for them is an individual and therefore requires a certain kind of treatment and a certain kind of coaching and a certain kind of belief. When you know that Ronnie has a child on the autism spectrum and they're dealing with those challenges, and that you're going to grant a certain amount of latitude on, how you treat them and how you think of them. And when people are loyal to an employer, and I don't mean loyal as in they stay out of a sense of inertia. I mean rather that when they go out into the world and they talk about the business, they always speak kindly about the owner. They believe in their managers. They enjoy wearing the shirt of the organization like a badge of honor, rather than just because this is what I wash my car in. These are all CAC. These are all part of the marketing budget and the customer acquisition costs. And you will find very sort of strange and wonderful mystical behavior that comes out of people when they truly believe in what their mission is. It tends to raise the frequency of optimism in a business when people feel good. And that there's certain businesses where you can go in and you sort of smell the mildew. And I don't mean it literally. What I mean is that this doesn't feel like the same place that it felt like before. Something ain't right.
The vibes are off.
Vibes are gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we just have too much choice. This is why everybody's trying to build moats around their business, because, when you've got choice, people will leave a sinking ship very quickly. They don't like the sense of being associated with something that's on the decline, because they almost feel like it's it's disease, like they're going to get it.
Yeah, it's guilt by association almost. It's sort
Right.
of like, well, it's the inverse of the Ferrari or whatever that you were mentioning before. What does this say about me positively? But an association with a declining company or one that has certain attributes spoken about it. Like, well, I don't want that bad juju on me, right?
Yeah,
like I want to distance myself.
We used to do an exercise when I was in advertising, and it was an exercise revolving around having respect for the buyer. So you had to have a kind of love of them. And the exercise we would do is this. We would say, okay, here we are. We're an advertising agency. We're trying to move the product for this company. We've got a VP of this particular model, and they're trying to make sure that they hit their numbers and their incentive. It's the usual. They've been incentivized in order to meet certain targets. So we're looking at it through a certain lens. How do we do this? But we started to look at things slightly differently from the standpoint of, look, pretend for a minute that you really, really like this customer. Like you really want to help them. And there's a certain kind of customer you want to pull. Like I would like to say, for example, it's one of my objectives to drive the average age of a Toyota Corolla buyer down. I want to make it cool for a 25-year-old to drive a Corolla. Yeah. And so we would say, all right, I want you to now paint me a picture of why a 25-year-old would want to wear that car like a suit of clothes or like a badge of honor.
Yeah.
Now, don't think of it like an advertiser. Think of it as you are that kid's uncle and you want to persuade somebody else why that kid bought that car. What would you say? And from that, we were concocting this kind of message that when you see a young man driving a Toyota Corolla, I guarantee you that kid has a plan, right? He's working on something. He's bought himself this car because he knows it's bulletproof. He knows he won't have to worry about it. That car is like a horse that's going to get him out of trouble in Apache country. He sees that car as a partner in his plan so that 10 years from now, he's going to be rich. And what happens is all of a sudden you go, oh, yeah, that's the sort of thing an uncle would say to a young woman who's dating his nephew. He would say, you know, that kid, Chris, that kid's going to be something. He's going to mount to something. Yeah. That kid has a plan. Every time I talk to him, he's thinking about the future. He's not worried about right now. He's pushing all his chips on himself. He's betting on himself. And all of a sudden, if you make that car, if you actually build that car, you've got a very different attitude about who it's for and what it's for. And you know what you want to have happen? You want that kid to win. You're on his side. You want him to win. And you start approaching it very differently about what you think of your own product that you're making on his behalf. You're going, this is a car for people with a plan. And therefore, I am definitely going to build that thing to be bulletproof, to last 30 years. And this is how we ought to be thinking about anything we make, is let's just for a moment try to imagine ourselves as a family member who really likes them. And we're making it for them. What is it that when you put it on or you use it, what does it say about you? And so in a case like, say, the Ferrari, I can absolutely see the designer going, this is for a certain kind of person. A certain, like you show me a woman who buys a Ferrari, I'm going to tell you exactly what kind of woman that is. That is a woman with a taste and a self-belief. And, she's a smart and she doesn't put up with any shit from any man. All of a sudden, everything that goes into the product has all of that energy, and then likewise, let's say you make a kind of food. You say, you could imagine all kinds of different products. Like somebody has really, really done a great job of making something that doesn't have sugar in it, And they say, well, no, of course not. I don't want people to have to watch how much they drink this because it's going to spike their insulin levels. Everything takes on a different takes on a different vibe. Yes. But
yes, my Jocko Go energy. I don't have to think about it. 0 sugar, 5 calories.
But if we go back to tradesman, there was I had a suit that I really overpaid for. It's all because the Tailor was just such a convincing son of a gun, and he was talking about the kind of suit he makes. And he would say, he goes, I was looking at how much the estimate was for this suit. And I would go, oh, gee, that's a lot of money for something that's just going to be out of style in 5 years. And he got incensed. And he pulls back the estimate and he goes, the armhole on your suit, it can be slightly more oval or slightly rounder, depending on whether I want you to stand up straight. It can be maybe a little bit more broad in the shoulder if I want, to help you accommodate a few extra pounds. It can be angled in or out, depending on whether I want to allow for a certain kind of sweater to be worn. There are 64 ways an armhole can make you look like shit. And that's just the armhole. I make one kind of suit here. Elegant fuck you suits, and fuck you never goes out of style. And I go, okay, I'm in.
Done. Yes.
I'm in.
Yeah,
because,
let's do it.
Because knowing that means that anytime I wear that suit and I walk into the room, I have absolute 100% confidence that the man that made that suit understood what I wanted to achieve that day.
I need to meet this guy.
I'm the apex predator in this room, if only by suit. In any case, you feel a certain kind of way when you wear the clothes. Now, I had the benefit of it was the guy that was going to sew those clothes for me. So he was absolutely going to hew to a certain standard. Yes, Neal, it costs what it costs. Because I only make one kind of, do not make me nickel and dime you on this thing. I build a certain kind of product. It costs what it costs. Mm-hmm. Now, the good news is, I guarantee you're going to be wearing that suit 30 years from now, and you're not going to care what's in style.
Right.
You're going to transcend fashion, my brother.
Yes and amen.
So,
Neal, this has been a phenomenal, it's probably one of my favorite conversations.
Oh, well,
there's a lot for a lot of reasons.
You're easy to talk to.
Well, thank you, sir. I work hard at my craft. But thinking about the listener and the person, they're driving, they're walking, they're pondering, their own life situation in light of what we've been talking about. Is it business? Is it trade? If someone wants to take a baby step in the next 24 hours, spending little to no money to treat themselves and their work more like a trade than like business.
Yeah.
What is something that they can do for little to no money in the next 24 hours?
So I'll give you a couple of things that are quite easy to adopt right away. When you are trying to persuade anybody of anything, stories are the default system for how people understand the world, how they remember things. I'll give you an example. If I gave you 3 bullet points right now to say, do this, do this, do this, you may or may not remember those 3 bullet points. But you probably haven't heard the story of the tortoise and the hare in 15 years. Nobody sat down and told you that story in all that time. And yet you not only can remember that story, you can repeat that story with very high fidelity, and you can tell me what the moral of that story was. This is how sticky stories are to us. They are very easy to remember. They're easy to grasp emotionally, and and a story will effectively communicate some point, which you can then pass on. And so, for example, when I was telling you the story before of a service writer who says, listen, I want you to just give it to her if it's less than $200, you would be able to repeat for other people, not only the circumstances of that, but you would be able to communicate what the benefits were. And you can actually adopt that in part of like how you want to have other people in your business conduct themselves. It's like there's a certain level of elasticity of your generosity, and I want you to embrace that. I want you to take advantage of that. Your job is to go out there and convert people to customers, not take their money. You want your initial customer acquisition cost was a lot. Your subsequent customer retention is going to be incredibly inexpensive. Okay.
Right.
So stories, this is the point I'm making, which is storytelling is part of your business, telling your own stories to your own staff and explaining things to customers the same way that my tailor explained to me, like, look, the armhole can blah, blah, blah. I make one kind of suit here and it costs what it costs. So these are the way that you conduct yourself. But here's the tip. Don't make yourself the hero of your own story. Be generous about how you, who you feature as the hero of your story. Because when you make yourself the hero of your own stories and you talk about how wonderful you are, people tend not to believe you. And they tend not to like you. You're an egomaniac. You're a megalomaniac. You are self-absorbed. You're solipsistic. You see that the whole world is here to serve you. And a tradesman, it's very much about you. It's about, let me see if I can help you with this product. Doctors, generally speaking, nurses especially, are very good at this. They're trying to help you. They're trying to help you get better. Nurses in particular who have my experience with nurses has been almost universally excellent because their orientation is to try to make you better. When a nurse tells a story, it's almost all the time, it's about some patient, and it's never about how wonderful they were. Meaning it's never about how wonderful the nurse was. It's usually about some patient. And sometimes they'll express patients, stories about that were horror shows, but it's never like, this is how I got my revenge. It's just, oh my Lord, Mrs. Hodgkin Curtis is a pain. But I want to return to this idea. When you are telling stories about your business, or you're telling stories about your customers, to your customers, separate yourself from the heroic role. Instead, be the observer of greatness. Be the observer, the witness to somebody else's inspirational quality. Talk about the things that inspire you, not what makes you wonderful, but rather where you draw your lessons from. And that will be an enormous help to you in framing things with the appropriate attitude.
I love that. That's
easy.
Man.
That's easy to take action on. You can change.
That is, I think it's easy to get started. I think you're going to require a ton of practice on that, because I do think we live in a world, in a society that's what works, but it's not what everybody's trying to do.
Well, it's going to go out of style pretty quickly, I think. People are really fed up. I notice it with my daughter's age cohort, in their early 20s. They are sick to death of braggarts. Yeah. They're really.
Let me beat my chest and tell you how awesome I am.
Really are exhausted by that.
Yes, as are the rest of us. Neal, this has been a phenomenal conversation, and I definitely want to have you back in. And
I'd love it.
Through many more things, including being pissed off for greatness. But if people want to know more about you, more about your work, maybe they have some follow-up questions. What's the best way to connect with you and learn more about the good work you're doing?
Yeah, so my company is Storyfire, and they can find it at www.storyfire.net. The name Storyfire comes from us sitting around the campfire telling stories. So storyfire.net. Also,
love it.
I'm quite easy to find because I spell my name so weird. It's easy to spell, but it's weird. It's Neal Foard, Neal Foard. And because it's so peculiar with that extra A in Ford, that means I'm the only one you find when you Google me. So it's fantastic that way. You will find me.
Man. Yeah, your parents did a great job of branding you.
Yeah, I know. Inadvertently, it was perfect.
Yeah, they set you on your path. I know I only have a couple of other Kenny Langes because, one, there's not a ton of Kennys out there, and there's not a ton of Langes that I run into, and then that combo's unique. But I'm competing with a creative director in New York and a professor at UCLA for Google supremacy. So if either of those guys are listening, the war is on. May the best Kenny Lange win. Yeah. But this is fantastic. We're going to link all of this into the show notes. We definitely want people to go check out YouTube, all of your links. So thank you so much for spending some time with me and sharing your wisdom and your stories with us.
Right on. And by the way, I'm going to email you right now. I'm going to email you a couple of screensavers of Pissed Off for Greatness. And and so you can put that in the show notes as well. But
there we go.
Here's one little note of explanatory. So everybody's like, what's with the rabbit? Well, that is stand for climb out of the rabbit hole. You notice what big arms he has?
He's got swole rabbit
arms for pulling himself out of the rabbit hole. And the idea is no doom scrolling. If you're pissed off for greatness, you're going to get out there in the real world and have real interactions like you and I are having right now. You know, we barely knew each other before this call, and I feel like we could easily spend the day with beers laughing.
Yes, absolutely we could. Well, thank you so much for this. We will link that up. That is going to be a lovely add-on for anybody and everybody. So we'll make that happen. Thank you so much for your generosity in that and your generosity of stories and wisdom. Thank you to the listener. Neal and I know you have many options when it comes to podcasts, and we thank you for flying, Neal and Kenny.
That's brilliant.
So if you made it this far, hopefully you got a ton out of this. Please like, rate, review, share, subscribe, whatever the action of choice on your platform is. I would be incredibly grateful, not just because I would love to see more subscribers and reach more people, because I do really believe in the work that these conversations do, but also because your interaction with the content gets us in front of more people like you. It plays to the algorithms. It gets these conversations in front of folks who are just trying to take their next step in leadership. And that is a free and easy way for you to pay it forward. And won't that make you feel warm and fuzzy inside? But until next time, change the way you think, you'll change the way you lead.